in the polished halls of the Galactic Council spire, everything was silence and silver. Glass corridors arched over starscapes, shimmering with the light of 100 worlds, and the voice of Earth's lead diplomat echoed in the chamber with a calm determination that belied the tension under his skin. "We came in peace," he said, hands folded, palms visible, tone deliberate. "We asked the same." Across from him sat the Valari High Arbiter, a creature draped in neural silk, its elongated skull pulsing with faint psychic ripples. Its eyes, black voids framed in gold filaments, didn't blink. Around it, representatives from the core civilization shifted subtly, antennae twitching, gills flexing, bioluminescent markings flashing in silent languages. Only the humans stood still. Ambassador Arjun Singh adjusted his stance ever so slightly. He had spent 7 years among these species, learning when to speak and when to hold breath. The council's mood was sharp, volatile. This meeting had not gone as expected. Without warning, the lights dimmed. A chime rang through the chamber, clear and cold. Security drones detached from the walls and repositioned themselves. Something was happening. Singh frowned, checking his wrist device. No alerts, no movement from Earth's mission. The Valari Arbiter stood. "In the interest of galactic peace," it said, voice resonating in layered harmonics, "Earth's diplomats have been found in violation of Council Statute 14-91. Unauthorized neurointerference and aggressive diplomatic posturing. Sentence: immediate execution." Singh's mouth opened, but words died behind his teeth. Around him, the human delegation rose to protest, but the drones were faster. Beams of dull violet light struck them, silent, clean. For diplomats collapsed, lifeless. Singh didn't feel the beam. He watched it find him, slow and final. And in the last instant before darkness, he understood something no human had wanted to believe. This had never been a negotiation. News reached Earth in fragments, but the images were undeniable. The footage was sanitized, carefully edited by the Galactic Council, but Earth's analysts decrypted enough. Singh's final moments. The flash of illegal execution beams. The deliberate absence of trial. Within 24 hours, Earth withdrew from all diplomatic talks. Within 48, every orbital gate leading to human space was locked under the guise of containment. And within 72, Earth's silence ended. No public declarations. No press releases. Just a file transmitted directly to the Council. A string of coordinates and a message. A Warden is en route. The Council dismissed it as theatrics. The Valari called it a feral gesture. Only the Talari merchant clans, ever attuned to shifting winds, archived a message with quiet alarm. No one knew who the Warden was. There was no record of their name, no history, no face in Earth's databases. But ancient logs from Sol's Mars accords reference the Warden Protocol, an extreme measure ratified during Earth's brief but brutal colonial conflicts on Titan. The protocol read only, deploy in event of absolute breach, operative unrestricted, outcome secondary to enforcement. 10 days after the diplomat's execution, a vessel broke through perimeter of the galactic core. It was small, black, and unmarked, an older human design, long decommissioned in favor of sleeker diplomatic ships. It didn't respond to hails or acknowledge warnings. It didn't slow. The Council authorized its destruction. 5 Chorak interceptors intercepted the ship at the edge of the core. The engagement lasted 12 seconds. The wreckage drifted silently past the defense line, punctured, ionized, still glowing. At the center of it all, the Warden's pod detached and continued without interruption. It landed at Port Meridian, the cultural and economic capital of the core, like a virus finding a vein. At first, local authorities assumed it was an automated drone or a probe. It took 2 hours for them to realize it contained a human. 3 officers attempted detainment. Within minutes, the station's AI was reset, its security systems rerouted, and the Warden walked through customs unchallenged. No armor, no insignia, just a matte black suit, silent steps, and eyes like scorched iron. The Warden never introduced themselves, never explained. They carried only a small case, biometric locked, and a device shaped like an old Earth coin, etched with the ancient Latin, Fiat hfyscifistories, let Justice be done though the heavens fall. The Valari were furious. They issued sanctions, demanded Earth recall their operative. Earth responded with another message. The Warden does not answer to us, nor do we control them. The Council has made its judgment. The Warden now enforces it. In the halls of the Council, laughter echoed. One human couldn't topple the Order of the Stars. But the Warden was not a soldier, not a politician. They were something far older, a species-quiet contingency, buried under decades of peace and protocol, not trained for war, but for ending it, efficiently, permanently. At night, reports began to surface. A Valari bureaucrat found dead in his thought-shielded vault, heart stopped by unknown means. A Chorak warsmith interrogated and erased, both physically and digitally, from the Corps' databanks. A Tolari information broker went missing after meeting the Warden. He reappeared days later, speaking only in whispers, unwilling to say what he'd seen. And everywhere the Warden went, they left only one thing behind: fragments of truth, evidence that the execution of Earth's diplomats had been more than a misstep. It had been premeditated, manufactured, orchestrated. The Galactic Lords had made a decision, and Earth had made theirs. But now, the Warden had arrived, and judgment had begun. Port Meridian did not sleep. It pulsed with the constant motion of interstellar life, orbital ferries, translucent merchant vessels, creatures moving in patterns no human eye could fully follow. Yet when the Warden walked its thoroughfares, silence coalesced in their wake, not out of reverence, but recognition. Something ancient stirred in the collective subconscious of the sentient crowd. Fear, perhaps, or memory. The Warden moved with purpose, neither slow nor rushed, their matte black boots soundless on plasteel. A biometric tag in their pocket blinked green as they passed a checkpoint designed to stop Class A fugitives. A Tolari customs officer glanced at the scanner, frowned, and decided not to look twice. Instinct overrode curiosity. Every step was calculated, every gaze ignored. In the absence of name, insignia, or title, the Warden was becoming a myth before their mission had even begun. Their first destination was the remnants of the Earth Embassy, sealed since the execution. A sterile cordon of security drones surrounded it, sanctioned by the Valari High Council. Most passers-by assumed it had been gutted, but the Warden knew better. With a flick of the wrist, the small coin-shaped device in their palm activated. The drones dropped one by one as their security codes unraveled. Earth's encryption wasn't elegant, but it was brutally efficient, like a hammer to glass. Inside, the embassy had been stripped to bone, diplomatic artwork removed, server cores gutted, even the floors chemically sterilized. But they had missed something. The Warden knelt by the wall panel behind what had once been Ambassador Singh's private desk. Their gloved fingers traced along its base. A seam, a magnetic lock. 30 seconds passed before the compartment clicked open with a whisper. Inside, a single memory rod, Singh's backup log. The Warden inserted into their reader and stood motionless, absorbing the dead man's final days. His voice was calm but edged with frustration as he detailed failed meetings, evasive answers, the quiet tightening of security before the execution. His last entry was different. Short, tense. They know we've uncovered something. Not just corruption. Something deeper. Valari tech. Neural probes banned under every treaty. I'm going to present it. If this message gets out, Earth must not let this be buried. The Warden didn't speak, didn't blink, just extracted the rod, slid it into their coat, and walked away. That same night, the Valari High Arbiters summoned a private council of their inner circle. They spoke in waves and pulses, minds entwined in a secure psychic loop. But even within that mind space, something gnawed at their certainty. The Warden had not come with ships or threats, yet 2 operatives were already missing, and surveillance data was vanishing from secured archives. No trace, no signatures, just absence. "We miscalculated," said one of the elders. "No," the Arbiter replied. "We anticipated Earth's retaliation. What we did not anticipate was their faith in a single executioner." One of the mind voices hesitated. "Perhaps we should consider silencing this Warden directly." "No," came the response. "Send the Chorak. Let them deal with it. Loudly. At a transit node in the lower ring, the warden stood in front of a Talari trader's stall. They didn't speak. They simply placed a memory rod on the counter and looked at the trader with eyes that made even a species bred for neutrality flinch. "I want access to the central archive," the warden said. The Talari blinked 3 inner lids. "That's off limits. Even to—" The warden placed a second object beside the rod, a military-grade decryption shard, encoded with Earth's clearance signature. The trader swallowed, then nodded. Information flowed. Thousands of documents. Council minutes. Black file summaries. Eventually, the warden found what they had been hunting for, a shipment registry. 10 cycles before the execution, an unmarked Valari transport had arrived at Port Meridian carrying an unclassified device, not listed as trade, not listed as diplomatic cargo. But Singh had found it, and someone had silenced him. Movement caught the warden's attention. A sound, too faint for others to hear, the click of a Chorak exoskeleton flexing. Another behind. Ambush. The warden moved before the first attacker struck. A flash of metal, a hollow crunch, and the first Chorak fell, its armor caving with pinpoint accuracy. The second lunged with a plasma hook, snarling in its native clicks. The warden sidestepped, grabbed the weapon mid-swing, and reversed its arc, impaling the insectoid with its own momentum. Silence returned. The trader was gone. The crowd scattered. The warden stared down at the fallen Chorak. They didn't gloat. They didn't speak. They simply recorded the serial codes from the armor and transmitted it back to Earth. The data confirmed the warden's suspicion. These weren't rogue agents. They were assigned by the Valari Council. That changed everything. By the time the council convened for an emergency session, whispers of the warden's actions had already spread. A silent hunter in human form, a bringer of reckoning. The Talari withdrew their neutral standing. The Chorak demanded retaliation. The Valari urged control. But control was already slipping. In his private quarters, the Arbiter watched the recording of the embassy breach. He zoomed in on the warden's face, cold and unreadable. "They are alone," one advisor said. "This is posturing." The Arbiter didn't respond immediately. His tendrils drifted in still air. He felt something rising across the stars, a shift like a current beneath calm water. "Posturing," he repeated softly. "No, this is what humanity sends when they've stopped posturing." He turned off the display. Outside, the stars pulsed on, unaware of what was coming. Or perhaps, like the Arbiter, they had already begun to understand. The dreadnought loomed in orbit above a crimson moon, its hull plated with living alloy and bristling with Chorak weaponry. It was a mobile fortress, a show of power meant to intimidate dissenters and impress allies. It had never known defeat. That changed in less than 5 minutes. The warden approached in silence. No fleet, no backup. A stealth insertion pod folded from a courier shell, too small for radar, too fast for interception. The ship's hull barely registered the impact before the pod split open, releasing a solitary figure into the corridor with a hiss of vapor and cold. Within seconds, 3 Chorak guards lay unconscious. The warden moved with unerring efficiency, bypassing alarms, scrambling cameras, disabling power in targeted sectors. Each motion was precise, economical, a scalpel through a war machine. No unnecessary bloodshed, but no mercy either. They reached the command bridge without alerting a single crew-wide protocol. The Chorak captain, bred for battle and covered in sacred carapace markings, rose with confusion fading into rage. "You trespass sacred territory," it snarled in its click-heavy tongue. The warden tossed a data shard onto the floor between them. It projected a holoimage. The 2 dead Chorak assassins from Port Meridian, their armor marked with the same insignia worn by the captain's guards. Then another image, classified logs connecting the dreadnought to illegal surveillance operations on Earth's embassy. "You will transmit these logs to Galactic Council," the warden said, voice level, each word landing like an executioner's bell. "You will state the truth. Then you will scuttle this ship." The captain lunged instead, claws extended. The warden stepped aside, delivered a single, crushing blow to the creature's thorax, and caught its weapon as it fell. Not dead, just silenced. A reminder, not a corpse. 20 minutes later, a coded signal reached the Council's central comm grid. The Chorak dreadnought, once a symbol of dominance, was drifting in self-destruct countdown, its bridge sealed, its message playing on loop. The Warden didn't wait for acknowledgement. They vanished before the explosion registered. At the Council spire, chaos simmered. The Valari demanded immediate retaliation. The Chorak screamed betrayal. The Talari quietly increased their internal security, while their merchant fleets turned away from trade lanes that passed near Earth. The illusion of unity cracked, then splintered. No one said it aloud, but the question rippled through every chamber and corridor. Had humanity just declared war? The Warden wasn't a name. It was a role, a protocol, a title passed, not chosen. Decades ago, Earth had been at the brink of civil collapse. Internal factions, rogue colonies, corporate militaries acting like governments. When diplomacy failed, Earth's Council created the Warden Protocol to identify and train individuals who could act where courts and armies could not. Operatives without ties, without public identity, trained in ethics, psychology, diplomacy, and enforcement. Their mission was not victory. It was finality. The current Warden had been born in silence and forged in deep shadow. Records of their training were sealed under 5 sovereign codes. Not even Earth's president knew their face. They answered only to necessity. They hadn't been deployed in 32 years. Not until the Diplomats died. Now, the galaxy whispered them like an old story rediscovered. Children in backwater colonies mimicked their silhouette in play. Smugglers altered routes to avoid intersecting rumors. On neutral worlds, holoscreens flickered with pirated footage of figure in black dismantling a warship alone. No name, no face, only the glint of metal and the cold of judgment. Beneath all of it, truth festered. The Warden had traced the false charges against Earth's diplomats through layers of bureaucratic shadow. The executions weren't a rash decision. They were a cover. The Valari and a sect of the Chorak had been engaged in covert development of psychic dampening technology, outlawed since the Ether Wars. Neural probes, capable of breaking non-physical wills, used not only in interrogation, but in population control. The human delegation had discovered traces of it embedded in Council infrastructure. They were silenced before the data could go public. Earth hadn't retaliated out of vengeance. It had acted because something older than treaties had been broken: truth. The Warden sat alone in a repurposed Talari drop hub on a dying asteroid. They decrypted the last layer of Ambassador Singh's logs, voice only, sent moments before his death. I don't think we're the first to find this. I think others saw it and vanished. If I'm gone by the time this reaches you, know this isn't just about humans. It's about choice, about freedom of thought. If they perfect this tech, no species will think without permission again. The message ended in static. The Warden's gaze lingered on the void beyond the viewport. No stars moved out there, only consequence. They activated their communicator. Transmission to Earth Command. Confirm Valari Chorak Neural Probe Network. Primary objective shifting. Target no longer containment. Target is systemic exposure and dismantlement. Receive, came the voice from Earth. Confirm need for reinforcements? No, the Warden replied. This ends with me. On the edges of the galactic core, where high civilization blurred into raw frontier, the Valari began relocating critical assets. Black vaults, memory banks, biological caches. They didn't admit fear. They spoke in terms of strategy, of consolidation. But in their deepest archives, they began purging records, erasing links, deleting trials, collapsing projects before the Warden could reach them. It wouldn't be enough. Already, their lives were unraveling and the galaxy was watching. The Warden had moved beyond vengeance. Now, it was justice that followed. The Council spire loomed over the skyline of Meridian Prime, like a blade plunged into the planet's heart. Its obsidian surface reflected neither starlight nor scrutiny, designed as both fortress and symbol, untouchable, unyielding. But within its deepest levels, that illusion had begun to fracture. Fear no longer belonged solely to those beneath its judgment. Now it lived inside the Council itself. Silence occupied the chamber where once 100 voices debated in layered translation and coded ritual. Delegates arrived shrouded in security drones, their retinues trimmed to shadows, their expressions guarded and brittle. Meetings devolved into hushed accusations. Eyes scanned the corners for movement. The air smelled of ozone and cold sweat. The Warden hadn't attacked. They didn't need to. They had exposed. In the sub-basements long forgotten even by the Volari themselves, the Warden moved like inevitability. Dust clung to the corridors where light had not touched in a generation. Here, the Council had buried their sins, neural dampeners, prototype will breakers, genome filters keyed to subsentient traits. The Warden's gloves left no fingerprints. They didn't need to. The truth, once uncovered, carried its own weight. Their uplink unit hummed as terabytes of data poured into secure Earth nodes. Every diagram, every test record, every authorization code was compiled, compressed, and scattered across the galaxy. Redundant archives blinked to life in outlaw sectors. Duplicates appeared in Vecri learning cores and Talari merchant databases. Not even the Council's fastest scrubbing teams could keep up. By the time the lights in that chamber flickered back on, the Warden was already gone. But the wound they opened remained. Across star systems, reactions erupted. Not wars, not yet, but ruptures in the myth of harmony. On outer rim planets, long ignored by the Council, indigenous species released recordings of illegal memory scans and cognitive imprinting by Volari researchers. Merchants boycotted Council trade ports. Pirate networks broadcast decrypted logs of classified interrogations. Every secret that had kept the elite in power now bled into the void. Still, no official declaration came from Earth. They remained still, watching. The Council, meanwhile, turned inward. The Volari High Arbiter summoned the 12 most powerful figures in known space. They met not in the grand atrium, but in a private vault buried beneath 6 layers of shielding and 2 null fields. No recording, no translation, only truth, spoken in its rawest form. This cannot continue, rasped the Chorak war strategist, his carapace dull from stress. It never should have begun, muttered the Talari overseer. We tampered with memory, with identity. We called it advancement. Call what you like, said the Arbiter, eyes dim. What we face is not Earth's retribution. It is their judgment personified, walking, silent, unstoppable. We could strike them directly, said another, a surgical fleet to Earth. Cut the head off the dragon. The Arbiter shook his head once, slowly. You misunderstand. Earth didn't send the dragon. They are the mountain. The Warden is a quake that comes when a mountain has been pushed too far. They voted to retaliate anyway, quietly, surgically, with assets not listed in any database. Assassins and Cyvoiders. Memory walkers who could erase a soul without a trace. They were bound by ancient contracts and encrypted with mind locks that would kill them upon capture. It was their finest response. None of them returned. Later, their bodies were found suspended in low orbit around a derelict outpost. No wounds, no traces of weapon use. Every mind wiped clean, blank as fresh snow. A message etched into the metal wall inside the station, written in 8 languages. You could only hide from truth for so long. The Warden didn't need ships. They didn't need an army. They needed only time, and they were patient. In the days that followed, Earth released a statement composed of just one line. We seek only what is just and what is owed to all. Not a threat, a principle. Public opinion began to shift. Younglings in neutral systems stopped mimicking Volari speech cadences and instead quoted the Warden's phrase, "This ends with me." Underground artists painted murals of a figure in black, standing against a backdrop of neural circuitry and shattered masks. In marketplaces and data feeds, a new reverence took hold, not for violence, but for resolve, for one individual willing to bear the weight of silence and truth. Finally, the Volari High Arbiter cracked. In a rare broadcast transmitted without filters or protocol, they appeared alone, no council, no guard, no translation overlay. The actions taken against Earth's diplomats were unjust. The executions were illegal. The evidence speaks for itself, and the silence we maintained was betrayal. We acknowledge this. It was not an apology. It was an admission, but it was enough. The Chorak seceded from the council an hour later, citing dishonor. The Talari followed within the day, establishing their own investigative body to audit galactic ethics violations. Even neutral factions began drafting charters of transparency, emboldened by the fracture of central authority. The council did not fall, but it changed. It was reshaped, with Earth now offered a permanent seat on the High Circle. They declined. Instead, they sent an observer, unarmed, unremarkable, tasked with listening. As for the Warden, they were never seen again. No image surfaced. No signal. No confirmation of death or return. But stories persisted. In the storm bands of Jupiter, a silhouette was glimpsed walking alone through a lightning field. In the shattered domes of the Galan moons, refugees spoke of a stranger who dismantled a black site lab and vanished before thanks could be given. A metal coin was found on a derelict council warship. No blood, no crew, just a phrase in old Earth script. Fiat hfyscifistories. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. Some said the Warden had finished their mission and gone to rest in obscurity. Others believed they remained in the void, watching until justice was not an exception, but a constant. Earth would never say, because some truths are heavier than names. Some legends are forged not in fire, but in silence.